It's Thursday again, tell everybody to lock in, grab some popcorn, a drink, and go and throw your AirPods in. It's the 1 hour show, constantly speaking facts. Bulletproof stats are always shooting from Matt. And when it comes to Kyle, you getting numbers and style. Jake is gonna educate you, he has that knowledge on file. Players, step your game up, don't be sluggish or lazy. Or Jimmy J might hit you with a shaky baby. Catch him on YouTube or any podcast platform. Breaking all the news down like Shaq does the backboards. No hot takes, this is where the hottest debate's at. Now kick your feet up, cause it's time for straight facts.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Straight Facts, a sports show that educates and entertains, brought to you by the Up On Game Presents Network. As always, make sure you're following them on all social platforms and wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify. They do a great job over there of amazing content, including the one you're about to hear now, Straight Facts Podcast. As always, with my guys, Jake Galley and Stat Matt Robinson. Guys, like we're knee deep into this NFL season, and we haven't done like an updated kind of rankings list or hierarchy top 5 in the NFL. So today we're going to get into that. But before we do, just want to welcome y'all. How we doing? I know we've had a long day. Our listeners won't know, but we've had a little bit of a long day as a pod. So we're getting, back to the episode. But how are we, guys?
Let me tell you what, I got reminded of my place in sports fandom by this last week. Things have been going really, really well for all of my teams, and that does not happen. And you know what ended up happening? I got the pleasure of watching the Union fork over a lead in extra time when the other team was down to 10 men and lose in penalty shootouts to a guy that used to be on the team. That was number one. Didn't really care as much about that one as then the Phillies having multiple shots at the Astros over the last 2 games of the series, not being able to get it done. 2 championship losses in the same day. I think they're like one of the first cities to do that.
I just want to say one thing about the Union. They've got to be the first team to score a go-ahead goal in the 124th minute of a match and then still lose the match.
Probably.
Because you can't show you up 10 men. I know it's Gareth Bale, but he only cares about Welsh national team and soccer. Here's
the thing.
Right when they lost, was like, oh, that's bad vibes for the Phillies, and then
yes, that is what I was thinking. That when the Union lost, I was like, that's not a good omen. And then that was the first game that Harden announced his injury that day, also earlier in that day. So I was like, the vibes are not great for the Phillies trying to win a game 6 in Houston, but
never should have pulled Wheeler.
Yes, 2 teams in the same city lost a championship in the same day. But how many times have 2 teams in the same city played a championship in the same day? Like glass always half full over here, y'all. Like that's something that I don't like. Name me a time. Like honestly, name me on the same day they were playing for a champion. Like
there's got to be.
I mean, the Phillies weren't a closeout, but they were.
There's got to be hockey NBA one.
I don't, bro. You know how rare that is?
Because they're the same time period.
Right, but you know how rare that is?
Like a Bruins Celtics kind of thing.
Might be. Honestly, the Bruins and Celtics probably have done it. Probably have both won on the same day. But that's neither here nor there. We don't need to get Jake going down an anti-Boston sports rant because I saw the gears turn a little bit. We got to stay towards the NFL. And of course, we're going to give y'all a top 5 rankings list, but we are going to do it straight fact style. And it's not just going to be a top 5 teams in the NFL. We're going to give you guys one stat for each of the top 5 teams in the league. And since we're going to do that for listeners, we're going to go 1 to 5. So best team to 5th best team instead of doing it a reveal style 5 to 1. So for the first, we'll start right at home as we've talked about them a lot. And it's the Philadelphia Eagles. One stat for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are just the 2nd team in the NFL since the 1970 merger to record 18-plus takeaways and 3 or fewer giveaways. In their first 8 games of the season, they joined the 1977 Baltimore Colts. In doing so, who had 19 takeaways to only 3 giveaways in the first 8 games of the season. So a lot of press and a lot of buzz was being made for the A.J. Brown acquisition. And a little bit of buzz was made for the defensive acquisitions as well, going and getting James Bradbury and CJ Gardner-Johnson and then the draft picks. But I don't think enough noise was made about the improvements you guys made on the defensive side of the ball. Your defense ranks 5th in the NFL in sacks per pass attempts, 8.9%, tied in 6th in total sacks in 26. The unit's also tied for the league lead with 6 strip sacks on the season. So a defense that's making plays, being opportunistic, getting the ball back to your offense, and setting your offense up in great positions. But it's just a team that, your offense had all the billing, right? Had all the is Jalen Hurts breakout season. What is AJ Brown going to do? Devontae Smith takes a leap. Dallas Goedert turns into a good tight end. But did you guys see enough talk about your defense heading into the season? Because it's a standout of your team right now. Might be the best unit.
I think the reason you don't hear as much is because in somewhat recent years, remember all the changes that Chip Kelly made not too long ago, where you're bringing in some big name people. There was an offseason specifically where they brought in, I think it was like Kiko Alonso, Byron Maxwell, and these were big names at the time. And it's very similar to what the Eagles did this year, and it did not pan out. So I think it should be a pretty big.
Darius Slay's first year, he wasn't what he's been last year and then this year. He was just pretty good.
He's getting back to the big play Slay nickname. He was, he's big play in Detroit, but this is the first year on the Eagles I've seen him be.
No, he was big play last year.
He did have at Denver. I watched in person that Denver return touchdown by him. I think it was like a fumble return.
He had a big success against New Orleans last year too.
And I think just recently, speaking strictly recently, since week 6, he's allowing only a 10.7 passer rating when targeted per NFL.com. Insane. And Bradbury's been just as good beside him. I think that, the Eagles being that it's one thing to be the team that gives away the ball the least, right? It's one thing to be the team that takes away the ball the most. It's another thing to be both.
Yeah,
which is what this Eagles team is. They are number 1 in the NFL in turnover percentage. They force a turnover on 22% of drives. And they lead the offense. They lead offenses in the NFL in turnover percentage as well, with only turning it over 3.5% of their drives. That's it. Look, simple is football when you win the turnover battle. Football can be a simple game when you get more opportunities to score than your opponent, which has been the case. They've looked awesome. They deserve to be the number 1 team. They're the one thing.
One last thing,
have me hold out.
We talked about the failure of Kiko Alonso and Byron Maxwell, and on the offensive side that year they got Ryan Matthews, and then talked about how Slay took a year to acclimate. 2017, the last time the Eagles were this good, that offseason was a bunch of solid hits. It was Chris Long, it was Patrick Robinson, it was Ronald Darby, and none of those were out of the world great players, but together they collect that filled the holes around the rest. There's just good players, and that's what they did. Howie did the same thing essentially with Bradbury and Gardner Johnson and Robert Quinn, and it's interesting to see the similarities.
Yeah, I mean, you can give the entire defensive unit kind of credit for the turnover percentage on the defensive end, but on the offensive end, you have to give so much credit to Jalen Hurts for keeping your turnover percentage low on the offensive end and completing that complementary football. The best teams in the NFL play complementary football on both sides. The offense complements the defense, and the defense complements the offense. And your team does that so well. And I don't know, I don't live inside Eagles media like you guys do, but I do live in the city of Philadelphia. And have we had a Jalen Hurts check-in through 8 weeks?
No check-in needed, bro. Let me tell you what.
A collective. Is it just that? Is it just a collective head nod to everybody? Okay, yeah, he's here. We don't have to worry about it. Move on. But I do. Does he deserve a recognition of every fan of being okay, you're the guy? Because I don't know if he's gotten that, but does he deserve that?
I would say it's a slow march, right? Each game that he wins, and each game, even if he doesn't win, that he looks good, more and more people come over to the side. And then when he looks bad, maybe some people leak back to the other side. There's been only wins. So right now, it's it's a big time hype train for Hurts. I don't think anyone's saying
he's won as many games this year as he won last year, because we had Gardner Minshew win a game against the Jets last year. Hurts was 8-8, and he's 8-0 this year. Hurts has proved me wrong, and I couldn't be happier about it.
Same.
I thought he was just kind of decent, but I don't
He's
like
been
some
the
people
best.
are putting him like MVP level. I think he's like top 10 quarterback, like that level, and like that's good enough.
That's
good
great
enough.
for him. That's great for him.
Give him the
But what
contract
he
extension
is,
this offseason. Like
what
do
he
it.
is, Matt,
No question.
maybe not MVP, but he's one of the best decision makers in the NFL. That turnover stat is one of very many things we could point to. You could run the tape too of him being one of the best decision makers, even from the thing that everyone was kind of cringing at to start the season. Him kind of taking too many hits, getting himself in bad situations, running the football. I even see that being better and correcting itself as we go along. Like his decision making has been second, almost second to none of any quarterback in the NFL.
This is not to besmirch Jalen Hurts, because it's about recognition of who you're playing with. Turnover percentage gets helped a lot when you have a receiver that catches everything that he can get his eyes on.
Miles hasn't put it on the carpet either.
Brown, he catches it. It's not going to be picked.
Miles hasn't put it on the carpet either. Like that, he had big fumbles last year. I'll knock on wood for y'all, but hasn't fumbled the ball much this year. Like, I don't know. It's coming together. The Philadelphia Eagles are the last undefeated team in the NFL, so they're obviously our number one team. Will move to the number 2 team, the Buffalo Bills. A stat for the Bills: the Bills ranked in the top 3 in the NFL in passing TDs allowed, and defensive interceptions. Dating back to last season, the Bills' passing defense had allowed 20 touchdowns to 30 interceptions. They are on pace to be the first team since the 2012-2013 Seahawks to intercept more passes than allowed TDs in back-to-back seasons. Jake, I believe this was you verbatim to start the season. Everyone kind of forgot that they had the best defense in the league last year, and you said in our preview NFL episode, you're like, they have the best offense, they're going to have the best defense. Like, what's going to stop them? And there you go, man. They're about to intercept more passes than they allow for 2 straight seasons without Trey White, by the way. They still got to get Trey White back. Like, this is, it's a crazy thing going on in Buffalo.
Well, this is, like, honestly, for the past 2 years, really last year was the first year I think we all kind of said, like, okay, this team could win. This team is at least a contender to win the Super Bowl. Now we're at the point where they are the favorite to win the Super Bowl.
They should win the Super Bowl, yeah.
And for all the reasons that we spoke about the Eagles, why the Eagles are good, why they've succeeded this year, the same things can be applied to Buffalo. Now, they obviously have like the really odd, bizarre loss to another team that's in definitely the top 10 of our power rankings last week. Maybe
we go get to them.
We'll get to the New York Jets, which they gave the Bills problems, and maybe that speaks to a larger monster waiting in that division with them and the Dolphins. But first in yards gained, first in points allowed, like they're just dominating on both sides. You look down each position. Josh Allen, one of the best in the NFL. Stephon Diggs, one of the best in the NFL. I can't say that for their running backs, but they do add Nyheim Hines, so they're at least trying to improve the quality of that position. And then at all 3 levels on defense, they kick ass. So, I just don't know. Like, I hate to say, like, well, this is kind of what we expected and shrug my shoulders at it because they're having an amazing season. But this is kind of what we expected. Like, I don't know. Von Miller has been great for them as well. What will really intrigue me is to see, do teams use the blueprint that the Jets implored against them and maybe have some success against the offense going forward? I don't know, but it's been awesome to watch.
Yeah, I mean, this is I just keep going back to what we talked about in that preview episode of how dominant and smothering their defense can be. And if their offense does waver, their defense is so dominant that it allows their offense kind of to get back on track with these things. I will say this: the more that Josh Allen potential injury looms, the more their defense is going to have to continue this dominant play, obviously, for whoever is going to, come in and throw the ball for Josh Allen for a couple of weeks. But, that's still to be determined. So we'll see about that. But, this is a great time to highlight Buffalo's defense because they might need it to step up even bigger. But Matt, talk about the Bills, man. What's going on?
Yeah, so The Bills are very much similar to last year. Von Miller's been a huge piece for them. He's having kind of fountain of youth season. He's on pace to get 14 sacks, which would be the second most of his career. Josh Allen is the same as he was last year. His interception percentage is the same. His yards per game. It's almost like, this is what Josh Allen is. And what I think we've learned about Allen is he's not the best regular season quarterback. He's not going to be the best, but his peak is so high that it scares everybody. And last year in the playoffs, we saw that peak. And with the defense learning from what happened in Kansas City last year and reloading, I think the ceiling of the Bills is higher than any other team in the NFL. But I don't think they're as consistent. In DVOA, it shows that they're the 29th least consistent team in the NFL when it comes to week-to-week performance.
And that is not Josh Allen, or it's what Josh Allen was. He's becoming much more of a consistent quarterback, but is that not kind of hallmark?
He'll have
Josh
that game
Allen?
like he had last week against the Jets. Like that happens.
But I love the Von Miller point, because this is a kind of a defensive slant that we're putting on the Bills. So I love the point of him fitting like a glove, like 7 sacks in the last 8 games, or in the 8 games they have this season. Like he's coming and making what was a high-powered and high-motor defense disciplined with that, because he's so smart at the defensive end position. I mean, you can see the impact plays he has made, but it's going to allow them to kind of implore something into their pass rush and into their defense that even hasn't been there in the past, 2 or 3 seasons. Like we talk about how great their secondary has been with, having more interceptions than they have let up touchdowns or let up passing touchdowns. But maybe it's time to talk about their defensive line being one of the best pass rushing units in the league, or their run defense being one of the best run stopping units in the league. Now that you add someone on your defensive line like Von Miller, who can not only bring the plays, but the intelligence, the smarts to pass on to the rest of that defensive line. Because Jake, like you said, if they hit you with all 3 levels of dominant play, defensive line, linebacking core, and secondary, there's not a thing you're going to be able to do to the Bills on either side of the ball. And then now you come in, now you face Kansas City in the playoffs, and now you got something that you formed last year this year that you didn't have for them last year.
Right. And
you don't have to worry about Tyreek Hill.
And the key will be for them, just to finish off with this, the only thing that has been holding them back has been how many times the offense has turned the ball over. 14 turnovers on offense. The defense has gotten them 15 turnovers. So, even though the offense is turning the ball over a crap ton, they're still 6-2 because the defense is doing even better on the other side, taking the ball away. If you could just be more conservative, hold on to the ball, they would be undefeated right now if they could have done that. So.
Cruel world we live in, don't we?
Yeah.
The NFL. I almost went off on a little rant, but I'll save it. For in a little bit. We're going to move to the number 3 team on our list, the Kansas City Chiefs. And I feel like the Chiefs and the Bills are lightning and thunder, because whenever you talk about the best teams in the NFL, when you talk about one, you almost have to talk about the other. They're like synonymous at one point of who's going to overtake the other team for maybe being next up for the best team in the NFL, at least in the AFC. But one stat for the Chiefs have a better chance of scoring on a drive, that's 47%, than these 6 teams in the NFL. The Rams, the Bucks, the Patriots, the Colts, the Broncos, and the Steelers do while they're in the red zone. So the Chiefs have a better chance of scoring on a singular drive than these 6 teams do while they are in the red zone. That is just automatic. That's a Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy-led offense right there, if I've ever heard of it. So that points to me, and I'm going to, slant it this way because my team is in one of those teams who can't score in the red zone. To me, this is more about how well the Chiefs can score than it is more of highlighting how much those teams struggle to score in the red zone. This is a Chiefs team that when they get the ball, expects to point the ball in the end zone. And they're, they do it almost half the time, which is crazy.
Yeah, and just for what it's worth, those were the bottom 6 teams that the Bucks are included in there. Just making that
cool. Heard ya.
But
thanks, man.
So this Kansas City Chiefs team, we expected them to take a step back in explosiveness, and they did momentarily, I'd say. They have
for like, until they figured it out.
Well, their longest touchdown this year is only 57 yards compared to the 75 yards of years past. Obviously, over and over again, starting drives with Tyreek Hill, bombing it. They now have Kadarius Toney, who we'll see. We will see. But like, if they want a guy to go vertical, they have one now. And beyond that, like, they haven't taken a step back. Mahomes has been better. He's passing for more yards and a higher net yards per attempt this year than he was last year. So I'm not going to say it's a addition by subtraction. They didn't get better by releasing Tyreek Hill. What the offense did is become a little less one-dimensional. And I think that's only going to benefit everyone involved, the playmakers, the receivers and running backs, as well as, Mahomes and Andy Reid. It'll make their lives easier too.
Yeah, so we have Kansas City number 3. We have Buffalo number 2. One reason is because Buffalo beat Kansas City this year. So, but
remember that logic, by the way. Go ahead.
But also, we have to remember that a couple weeks ago, I think a couple of us made this point, that the Tyreek Hill loss won't be a huge deal in the regular season, but in the playoffs, that's when we have to see where it's that get out of jail free card that Mahomes likes to play all the time when everything is on the line. And we'll learn that come January. But as it stands right now, they've adjusted perfectly, as good as they could have without Tyreek Hill. But that lingering over my head, even if the Bills and Chiefs hadn't played this year at this point, would put Buffalo ahead of Kansas City in my mind.
Yeah, and there's a part of me that still wants to see that too, to see how they operate with no Tyreek Hill at all in the playoffs. But the emergence in the last couple of weeks, the last 3, 4, 5 weeks of Juju, it makes me think that this Chiefs team is able to adapt, and they've found that role for him. And it wasn't just getting him his first score or getting him, 4 or 5 catches one game. Like, it's been a consistent 4 to 5 weeks of Juju being an integral part of the offense and helping them win games. And I think it's just making their offense just that much more versatile. And look, they're about to unleash a weapon in Kadarius Toney, who, when gets the ball in space, could be just as lethal as the former guys that we're all naming for the Chiefs who make it happen. So, we talked about how this offense wasn't slowing down. It didn't have a sign to slow down. And I don't see it kind of anywhere around it. And it again seems like the Chiefs and Bills are headed on a crash course in the AFC Championship game. Like, I haven't really seen a team in the AFC that's going to really contend that right now. Like, we have, unless you really put that much stake in the Dolphins to go up there and really throw haymakers with the baddest of boys in the AFC, like, it's the Chiefs and the Bills again. And we have 2 teams in the Chiefs and the Bills who are operating on the same cylinders they were operating on last season.
I hope we get it again. I pray.
We deserve it.
I pray.
We deserve it.
Yes,
the NFL world deserves that matchup again one more time. But we'll move on to finally a team who might surprise a bunch of people, or has continued to surprise people throughout the season. And that's the Minnesota Vikings we have at number 4. Their stat, the Vikings have won their last 6 games by 1 possession, They have been lethal in the fourth quarter during this streak, averaging 11.2 points in the fourth quarter. That's amongst the NFL's best. So the Vikings
just to translate, guys, that's 44 points per game.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's nuts. Anyway, hey, this
Plus
is a Kirk Cousins team. It's a Kirk Cousins team. And man, the NFL is good because that boy's had 1 primetime game. He's been great. Not been great, but he's been good for 7 out of 8 games. The 1 game he plays in primetime, obviously against y'all, he stinks up the joint. But this is a team who, at least me, and I believe this is a collective thought in the NFL world, that we're like, okay, when do the Vikings come down to earth? And they're maybe taking advantage of the Packers not figuring it out, the Bears being who the Bears are, the Lions being who the Lions are. So they get a little bit of a head start in that division, or a little bit of a jolt. But I've been waiting for the mirage to go away of the Vikings. I've been waiting for stuff to settle, to regress back to the mean. I thought your game against their game against the Eagles was it. They bounced right back.
The
And they
Vikings
did this with Justin Jefferson scoring. He's got 2 touchdowns on the season, 3 touchdowns on the season.
a lot of yards though.
A lot of yards. Julio Jones type season, a lot of yards, but they're not putting the ball in the end zone. But go ahead.
But they added T.J. Hawkinson, which is going to be another red zone threat they can use, which is a big pickup.
Yes, sir.
They do feel like a college football team, like in like years past. Like they got like smashed by Alabama, but have played like cupcakes and they're 7-1, and like in like the playoff discussion, but everyone knows that they're not really one of those teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of view that way. And then I remember the NFL is not college football, and every team can beat anyone.
Mm-hmm.
When in college football, the second team playing the 8th team is like they're like a 17-point favorite. So a great comparison is last year's Bengals. Well, Kirk Cousins is obviously not Joe Burrow. Justin Jefferson is better than Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Hawkinson is a really good tight end. Dalvin Cook is a great running back.
Mm-hmm.
And DVOA did not like him last year. The Bengals 17th, Vikings ranked 18th in it currently, and the playoffs are wacky. Like I don't think it's likely, but it's one of the options. There's a scenario where this happens. I don't think people can imagine that Kirk Cousins could make a Super Bowl.
That's not.
He won't.
On the table.
I can't imagine that. No. And I love the comparison. Actually, to me, the teams are kind of synonymous. I mean, the Vikings
bend but don't break defense.
Yeah, exactly. The Vikings are a more veteran version of that Bengals team last year. But it's like grow that Bengals team up 4 or 5 years, grow the quarterback up 10, and it's the Vikings. Age them a couple of years, and to me, the feeling of them are very synonymous. But Jake, you were shaking your head the whole time.
Look, man,
you didn't like it.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is confirmation bias by me, and seeing this team literally torn to shreds like some pulled pork, barbecue chicken, like whatever you want to call it. Like the Eagles literally did this team. The only real team they've faced has dismantled their defense. It was 24-7, and it should have been even higher if the Eagles could have gotten their stuff together in the second half. They have the Buffalo Bills coming up next week, as well as the Dallas Cowboys the week after. We can check back in after those 2 weeks and make a real assessment on the Vikings. But like, I look at this team, and granted, I should say they are outperforming expectation. They are having a great year, and I think that for that reason, their fan base should be elated, excited. They're 7-1. They're like definitely reason for hype. So I'm not saying like, why are you hyping this team up? They've allowed over 400 yards 3 separate times on defense this year. That was one of their losses against the Eagles, 486 yards they've allowed. They have only registered 400 yards of offense in one game, and it was against the Bears, who stink. So my point in all of this is saying, if you're not outgaining the other team, then you're likely relying on efficiency or like turnover percentage.
I was going to say getting the ball back more,
or converting more often. So like I believe they can continue to convert more often. Where I wonder is how really good is this defense? They allow a bunch of yardage. They're relatively bend but don't break, as you say. We're going to find out in the next 2 weeks how good this defense is, and then I will be willing to say, you know what, they're legit. They should be, the most.
They're in the nitty. Here's what I'll say. When it gets to the nitty gritty, is we'll find out about that defense. 7-1 is we're halfway through the season at this point. 7-1 is enough to, unless you have a historical collapse, Arizona Cardinals-esque of last season, and they even still made the playoffs. The Vikings are in the playoffs. Like we're going to see them in the postseason. That's when we'll see if they can continue with this formula, or what gives, I should say, in this formula. Do you either be even more ultra efficient on offense, and now we're scoring on 4 or 5 drives in a game? Or does your defense become super opportunistic now if you continue to get, if you continue to lose the yardage margin? Like, one of those things have to give. You either have to become super efficient on offense and score and put points on the board damn near every time you have the ball, or I need 2 extra possessions if I'm not scoring every time I get the ball.
You're forgetting a key point. And that's a broader point, and that's the NFC is garbage. So the only
which is how they
team-
skated by till
Yeah,
now. Which
I
is
know,
how
the
they
only
skated by
team
till
that's
now.
going to give them problems in the playoffs are potentially Dallas with a healthy Dak and the Eagles. And if Dallas and the Eagles somehow like match up in an earlier round, then they'd only have to beat one of them.
Yeah, here's what I'll say. Yes, there's a whole half of the season. We're gonna win the NFC South by default. And Kirk Cousins don't want to see Tom Brady in the playoffs. You guys might want to. Your team is better. Kirk Cousins don't want to see. You could put the Bucs as someone who also would give the Vikings trouble. Like Kirk Cousins don't want to see Tom Brady and the combination of Tom Brady and Todd Bowles in the playoffs. They just don't. He just doesn't. He just doesn't.
I'm with you.
You know what I mean? Not many people do. Jalen Hurts may not, but like not many people do. So like, I don't want to call the Vikings fool's gold. I have a little bit to believe their record is what they say they are, but I do there is a lot to be desired when it comes down to like when it gets down to it, like when the game gets ultra condensed when you get to playoff time. I think one of those things are going to have to give.
Yeah, I think like here's what I'll say. They're number 4 in our ranking right now. We have 2 teams that have worse records ranked ahead of them, deservedly so, in the Bills and the Chiefs. After these next 2 weeks, they will have earned their number 2 ranking if they are still the second
They're
best.
9-1.
If they're still the second best, honestly, I mean, I guess you got to admit Dallas is a bit of a toss-up if you consider yourself a good team. They're a pretty good team. That's a coin flip. So, like, you come away 1-1, that's impressive. That's the baseline I need to be impressed.
If they come away 2-0, y'all got to
now it's like, okay, they're a contender for the Super Bowl. Then right.
Then I don't know, because they'll be a contender. But is Kirk Cousins leading a Super Bowl contending team?
I just want to remind people that the Bengals lost by 3 scores to a team that didn't make the playoffs in December of last year.
Yeah, that was bad. Yeah. Hiccups happen. The number 5
But the
team,
second if the Vikings get blown out by the Bills,
everyone's gonna be ready to write them off. As will you.
See, they're like the NFC's like the Cardinals lost like 42-7 to the Matt Castle Patriots, and then made the Super Bowl in 2009 or 2008. Like, weird stuff happens.
Yeah, but it's Kirk Cousins and the Vikings,
not Kurt Warner.
Not Kurt Warner and the Cardinals, right? There's differences here. Like there's glaring differences, but we shall see. We might have to do a temperature check in 2 weeks just to see.
7-1, you got to get respect. It's really that simple.
I agree. All right, last one. We'll move on. The number 5 team in our list. We have picked the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens stat: they are one of 9 teams to lead by 10 plus points at some point in all of their first 9 games. Now, that's a good and a bad thing because they've lost half of those games. So this is a team that we've noted about their struggles with maintaining leads. They're jumping out early in games, but not really sustaining that. We saw the frustrations with Lamar and his offensive line last week on not being able to get the ball snapped in time and getting a delay of game penalty. So we know not all is well, or not all is perfect in Baltimore, we should say, but there's good things going on with this team. Matt, this is a team that you predicted to be in a Super Bowl scenario by the end of the season, but it's a rickety 5 spot, but they find themselves within still the contenders, in the mix of the AFC conference.
They've rebounded. The 3-3 after the loss to the Giants, I was worried. It's been 3 close wins, other than Monday night against New Orleans where they demolished them. But it's just they're coming into their own. They have a really favorable schedule the rest of the way. I'm looking at it. Well, I'm just going to run through it quickly. Carolina, Jacksonville, Denver, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. That's with Deshaun back. And then Atlanta, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. So it's like that's pretty good for Baltimore. They've scarred me as a non-fan. Like, I don't care if they blow leads because I'm not a Ravens fan, but like just as like a Super Bowl pick, when you blow leads like that, you lose that level of confidence as a team. and you aren't sure the game is over.
Yep.
And the other team thinks they can still come back. And I think that's why I slot them behind, especially Buffalo and Kansas City, because those teams, they'll be down. If they're down, Kansas City's been down 24 in the playoff game. Buffalo, if they're down 21-0 to Baltimore in the first quarter, they think they're gonna come back and win. And Baltimore thinks they could blow it. And that's not the mentality of a Super Bowl contender. And I need to see them do it before I can think they'll do it.
This was a Ravens team that, we saw go 14-2 and be one of the most dominant, if not the most dominant team through an entire NFL season and shut the door on folk. And I haven't seen them shut the door on folk. They have opportunity after opportunity and they don't shut the door on people. And Matt, I'm going to piggyback on your point about them not having the confidence and that kind of pointing to them blowing these leads. You can see it on the sideline. Not only is Lamar cursing at his offensive lineman, but you see Marcus Peters getting into it with people and John Harbaugh having to break people up. And I think that's just playing with attention, not a tension as in playing attentive, playing with a tension, to you, playing stiff, playing, not playing loose, not playing, natural. Everything is so high strung and high tense for the Ravens right now that they're not just playing football, and that's making them make mistakes, making them not score the ball at the end of the game, making them not, you know what I mean? When you don't play with a free fluidness to you, you don't play with a confidence, then you're not allowing yourself to go out and just execute naturally. And when you do that in the NFL, things are gonna get tough. So it's just not great for the Ravens what I see right now, and it's not what I'm used to seeing is what I'll say.
If you gave Lamar Jackson, actually forget Lamar Jackson, if you swapped out everything but the quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens, I think Pat Mahomes is still fine, but I think Lamar Jackson, you would see just exactly the talent he is. They're struggling to win games. And granted, there's been times where he hasn't been the best, and I've been very critical of him. But you look around out there, and if I'm Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews is hurt, and by far my best option.
And Rashad Bateman's hurt too now.
Bateman's hurt. I look around. Dobbins is hurt. I look around. It's I've got Isaiah Likely, and he is the dog, and he is the guy now without Andrews.
And what did Isaiah Likely do at the end of the game?
Right, exactly. He's dropped and bobbling. So point being, I think when they're healthy, they'll be competitive. They can't win a Super Bowl, I don't think, without the defense getting much better. But this stat clearly shows that they are good enough when they are clicking to their potential, as you guys have stated. And we'll see if they get there. I don't foresee it, but it'll be interesting to watch.
To me, it's double-sided with the Ravens. I don't think still haven't seen their defense play to the billing it's lived up. In the past 2 seasons, we haven't seen their defense live up to what they've been billed to. But no, the offense isn't clicking on any type of cylinders, but the defense isn't able to kind of put clamps on teams, right? Because every NFL team's got a second punch in them. So when you come down to the latter part of the third quarter or the fourth quarter, and now you're getting those desperation punches, those punches for the team to get themselves out of their corner and get themselves off the ropes, the defense isn't able to withstand those. So now momentum builds on the other side, on both sides of the football, and Baltimore watches these games slip away. So as much as the attention and the onus and the kind of focus is on the offense for not being able to get it right, I got to put the focus on the defense too, of not being able to hold these teams when your offense isn't getting it going. We're not complimenting each other on either side of the football. That's kind of just what I see going on there in Baltimore. But before we move on, I have an objection. I have an objection, Your Honor, because for our Straight Facts listeners, we are a united front over here on Straight Facts. We came up with this list together, this 1 through 5. But I was in disagreement with the 5th team. We had Baltimore Ravens. We had votes for the Miami Dolphins. And guess who I said? I said, why are we leaving out the New York Jets?
I give him a pat. I give him a pat on the back.
Not only the Dolphins, but another team on this list, the number 2 team that we have on this list, went and gave them fits too. So a Jets team who finds themselves second in the AFC East with a 6-3 record.
Third hardest schedule in the NFL so far.
What?
And they went 6-3.
So why? So you're answering. You're the person who wanted the Ravens. You're answering my question.
No, the Ravens. I really think
no. We are not giving the Jets their due. We are falling to the stigma of who the New York Jets are and not allowing us to do what we say we do on this podcast and to listen to the facts. Let the facts tell the story. And the facts are telling the story that the Jets are better than those 2 teams that we tried so hard to put at number 5, to convince us so hard to put at number 5. The Jets should be in there. The Jets, by our metrics, should be a top 5 team in the NFL. I'm sorry. I know it don't sound great. It don't look good either. But it's the truth.
DVOA.
It's the truth anywhere you slice it, man. Like it's
no,
just
this is
time.
It though. So
It's
Zach Wilson has started double the amount of games as Joe Flacco. Just want to put that out there. So Flacco started 3, Zach Wilson started 6. Joe Flacco leads the team in touchdown passes.
They're not great.
They also
not
4
great.
touchdowns, 5 picks for Zach Wilson. I can't get past the quarterback.
Wait. Here's where you always try to nitpick. Because did I say Zach Wilson is a top 5 quarterback in the league?
No, they look like 10-7 first round. They look like last year's Pats, kind of.
Which is an upgrade for the. Why is no one seeing how much of an upgrade
that's not
that
a
is
top 5
for
team,
the
though.
Jets?
That's not a top 5 team.
Bingo.
But why is that? What you said?
Great
not
year
a
for the
top 5
Jets.
team?
They're building something. You're 100% on it.
It's built, man.
They're not a top 5 team.
It's not built. It's not built. That Zach Wilson guy stinks.
It's not built. Let me not go that far. It's not built. But look, the infrastructure is there and the lights are on. The plumbing's work. The grand opening sign is hung up.
Let me put it this way.
They about to be open for business soon.
Let me put it this way. Here's what I'll say about the Jets. Let the Ravens go ahead and mess up the Lamar Jackson thing. And let Lamar Jackson be out there on the open market. And the Jets still are stuck with Zach Wilson. I guarantee you they would be one of the top teams in on him. And if he were to go into that offense, they would be a top 3 AFC team, period. I'm rooting for that. Genuinely.
I don't understand why you can't root for him now. Jake, here's my argument for you in particular. The Jets, to me, fall under the same the scrutiny, I guess, or kind of fall victim to the same thing as your Brian Dable argument. That the Jets are not the sexy looking team. You know, they haven't been built as a good team for years and years in the past. They don't look the part. You know what I mean?
It's 100, James. The reason they are not getting like big looks
is because they're the Jets.
Is because it's the Jets. Like, am I really going to go out here and make a whole song and dance about the Jets when I know what they're about to do? But we'll see if what they're about to do is really.
That's literally all that it is. The Jets are the Brian Dable of teams.
But Robert Saleh is good.
I was about to say they do have the young, strong-jawed, handsome, bald head coach. What are you going to do, man? What are you going to do?
That's where you take it away.
He's not from the McVay tree, so he doesn't get the love.
He's not that young either. He's just, looks.
I just said he was good
for the Jets. Good for the Jets.
Bro, look. You guys wanted the Dolphins to be on here so bad.
I did not want the Dolphins. I'm pro.
Someone wanted the Dolphins. Someone wanted the Dolphins on this list.
Who could it have been? I don't know.
Jake, they got scraped off by this team. The number 2 team we have on this list got beat by this team. And then I don't know. There's just we at some point we're going to have to admit that the Jets, just like you had to admit that the Giants are good, we're gonna have to admit that the Jets are good. But we can move on to the second part of our podcast. We're going to get into some NBA talk, of course, because it's the best time of the year. We can get into both things at one time. We got some teams who are.
May I give a quick NBA update that's just funny? Jokic has 5 fouls in 12 minutes played tonight.
That's good for Jake to hear.
Matt, you almost just set me off, brother. I just reeled it in. Wow, that was close. Okay, I'm not even going to comment what I was just about to say. Just keep going or this is going to get bad.
I mean, like, we can just go into our next segment. We're gonna call it "Fix It or Nix It." So, Jake, you came up with this segment. I'm gonna let you kind of give the context to what's going on.
Yeah, so we have a bunch of NBA teams here that we're going to rip through, and things are either going poorly, which is unexpected, or things are going well, which might also be unexpected for certain teams. And we're going to look: should they look to fix it? Should they look to add pieces to make it better, or should they nix it? Should they trash it? Should they rebuild? And for the first team, which I'll bring us into, it's a little bit of a confusing fix it or nix it, because this team is 9-3. And I'm going to say that they need to nix it. They need to start selling stuff off, break this thing down. The Utah Jazz, something strange is going on in Utah.
Someone dropped the pick.
Something strange is happening in Utah. They're winning games and sharing the basketball with no stars, or maybe one. Lauri Markkanen, an early MIP, an all-star candidate. He's averaging career highs in points per game with almost 22, field goal attempts, field goal percentage, assists, blocks, and he's doing it despite a career low in 3-point percentage, which is kind of his calling card. So, like, I'm going to say they need to nix it. Look, Jordan Clarkson, you're worth something to a contending team. Colin Sexton, you're a little too young, but like Jared Vanderbilt's made a bit of a name for himself that he could be a piece that gets sent out. Like, this team, first off, hats off, playing amazing. Great job. You defied the odds already. If I am the guy who made all the decisions to
Danny Ainge,
if I'm Danny Ainge and I'm
Danny
like,
Ainge.
hey, don't worry, owner, we're going to look at this guy here. Look at the video. We're going to get Wembanyama. Look at him. Okay, yeah, okay, I can trade those guys. Fine. And then they start winning games. No, they're gone.
If Wembanyama wasn't there, I'd say keep it going. Utah is a team with history of having like good teams. They only really contended in one era, but they've been like consistently good for a while. Whether it was the Boozer, Darren Williams, whether it was the Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, going back, whether it was like the Adrian Dantley and the Mark McGuire stuff. But Victor Wembanyama is available. You messed up. You're too good. This team's actually good. This team will make like a 6 seed. This isn't a fake beginning of the season. They're crafted. They're like well organized and well like structured as like a basketball team. And honestly, I know you have Minnesota's first round pick unprotected. I know you have another first round pick that's the worst of like the Sixers, the Rockets, and like someone else, and the Nets or something. It's like a whole. And but you have to get every piece of the pie to get Wembanyama. Trade everything. Go full 2016 Sixers. Find Darius Johnson Odom on the street somewhere. Find
DJO. What a name! What made you think of DJO? Darius Johnson Odom. Shout out Marquette University. My goodness.
He never scored a point in the NBA. Fun fact.
Sure.
Number one fan here.
Sure.
And just full. 9 wins is too many. That team won 10 games.
Yeah.
It's too late. Like
they're almost at their target margin. They're in trouble.
They're in trouble.
No,
This took too long. This is
they're
emergency.
Yeah.
Like
they're like a third of the way to what the worst team in the NBA would win. Already. Like they're almost there.
They can't win more than 20 games if they want Wembanyama.
Seriously. I guess it's weird because I don't know which way to answer, fix it or nix it. Like, they should nix the winning, which is to ultimately fix their team. So that, like, my kind of viewpoint of what Danny Ainge did is the concept was right, man. Strip your team, sell the stars, tank. We got the next one coming. The guys he went to get, that's the mistake of what he did.
I guess
because he went and got some scrappy dudes who got something to prove. You went and got Lauri Markkanen, who was a lottery pick at one point. And this dude coming out of Arizona was supposed to be one of the next ones. They thought they were comparing him to like Porzingis and Dirk coming out of the draft. This, European tall 7-foot guy who can shoot, NBA guy's dream, right? and goes through a bunch of injuries in Chicago, gets bounced to Cleveland. Then they draft a center and go trade for a center in Cleveland. So they run him out of town too. This guy's got something to prove and a lot of talent. And then you go get Colin Sexton, Colin Youngboy off the same team with a dude he's scrappy when healthy. He's scrappy when people are believing in him. And now he's got a bunch of doubters and a position to get back after Darius Garland kind of moved him out of his spot. You traded for when you went to a rebuild, you went and got the wrong guys. You went and got the wrong expiring contract guys because these guys are out here to play and have something to prove. You know? Like you got the wrong ones.
Last point before we can move on. Like Ainge, what I will say, and maybe why he went and got those specific guys, is he is known for the quick rebuild. Remember in Boston, they went from worst to first pretty quickly, added Tatum and Brown into the fold, and then became a title contender seemingly over the stretch of 5 years without ever truly bottoming out. So maybe he's trying the same thing here.
Yeah. We'll see. Jake, you want to move us to the second team?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is going to be another fun one. Honestly, all of these are kind of fun to poke fun at these teams. And we do in excess for the Los Angeles Lakers, 2-8. They've got their big three, which we know very well. But then I think, as we've made note of, the talent after that, or maybe lack thereof, is staggering. When you look at the guards coming off the bench, you're going to be talking about Kendrick Nunn, Lonnie Walker, as well as some other pieces like Austin Reeves and a bunch of guys who I genuinely, like, I'm going to be honest, straight facts viewers, I don't know their names. That's why I'm not going to mention them by name.
Matt
I don't know
Ryan.
their names. Yeah, and
Matt
not
Ryan.
the quarterback. Not the quarterback. So my question here, and I guess that it's almost like a bit of a paradox, because I think the only way to fix the team is by breaking it down, by nixing it, by you have to sell off, determine, do I want to keep LeBron? Like, it's ridiculous to say out loud, but it's becoming a real question. Not that LeBron isn't performing well, just that, is my franchise going to be better off in 4 years by keeping LeBron and keeping Russ and trying to make this thing work? Or is it going to be better off by getting that money, specifically for Russ, off the books as soon as possible and getting anything I can, which should still be somewhat sizable, in return for LeBron to maybe like a contending team?
Yeah.
It takes balls, but that's what I would do. And I think that's what's best for the team. So I guess nix it. I don't know. It's weird.
They gotta nix something. The only thing that makes me think of continuing to tweak things to see if this thing work is the little moves that they make. You can see improvements in the team of doing them. I mean, it took a long time and a lot of teeth pulling, but moving Russell Westbrook to the bench was one of the best things that the Lakers have done. You got a better Russ, you get a better Lakers squad from it. Anthony Davis hasn't been all worldly, but he's been steady, right? 23 and 10. He's averaging right now to start the season. Like, good things are there. It's just everything else around those stars and what's going on. He's the inconsistent piece. They have no just steady guys. You have guys you hope to perform on a, all-star, superstar level, and then you have 5-point per game scores. You have nothing in between for the Lakers. You have no glue guys, nothing that bridges that gap, no guys that just will give you a consistent 15 to 18 in a night. Like, it's just, that's not there, and that's what they're missing.
They're the opposite of the Jazz.
Yes, yeah. They have the Jazz have everything in the middle here.
Looking at the Lakers roster and thinking, crap. That's what I should have done. Like, I made this team way too good. The way the Lakers are constructed is so wrong. Like, it's past the point where, like, you get annoyed that they're wasting basketball talent on LeBron. It's funny that it's this bad, that Russ is this broken offensively, that LeBron is basically like, screw it, just give me 28 a night, I'll break Kareem's record, and then I'm just holding out till Bronny comes up. And I think there's
a little bit of that for sure. I think
you let LeBron break the record as a Laker. Now you have to keep LeBron just because revenue, but you trade Anthony Davis. You need. I
don't know. Here's what I see.
Get a pick that you can hope tanks this year for Wembanyama. Get an unprotected pick from a team that's going to be like a borderline bubble team just for that 0.5%.
I mean, I wish it was that easy. I really do wish it was just that easy to go and get it. But last point I'll make is like it might take a roster overall, but if you really want to contend for a championship,
Right.
I mean, didn't we see the 2018 Lakers start out with what everyone thought was no hope? In the middle of the season, literally get a brand new squad, legit get a brand new squad, and go to the finals. Like it's been done before. It is unlikely. It takes a whole lot of pieces to move, but LeBron has done it before. When he had much more control, he had much more control in Cleveland.
It's an unmitigated disaster. Russell Westbrook
They
is
didn't
an
have a Russell
unmitigated
Westbrook
disaster.
contract. They didn't have a dude making 40-something mil on the books this year. That is for certain.
Brutal.
But we'll see if the Lakers, what we're going to do. The last team we're going to do, probably one of the most fun ones we'll do, is the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is what we thought was going to happen. This is what we thought was going to happen. This is what everybody thought was going to happen. I don't know why they thought it was going to be different. I'm actually annoyed that they thought it was going to be different. I am. Because when you go and get Rudy Gobert and put him next to Cat, what did you think was going to happen on offense? You thought it was going to be good? Like you thought it was going to work? Gobert's averaging career lows in points, blocks, field goal percentage, which the points I don't really care about. The blocks and the field goal percentage is what Rudy Gobert is supposed to be leading the league in and year out. He's not doing that. Cat's 3-point attempts have gone up. Shocking. But his field goal attempts, his field goal percentage, his free throw attempts, his blocks, and his 3-point percentage have all gone down. Anthony Edwards looks disinterested at times. Like this is just, it's not gelling. Like what they went and did in the offseason is not piecing together.
I'm mad about it. We're
it's annoying.
This is such. We're messing up Anthony Edwards' development. He's 21. He has the same stats as last year. That should not. He took a great efficiency growth leap last year, and that's why they were a playoff team. This year should have been the year he goes to 25, and the offense is so horribly constructed that he's just stuck. It's like the Embiid year with Horford, but way worse. And Anthony Edwards, this might actually stun his career. He's gonna be like an all-star, but this is
when you stunt the growth this early, it does something to a career. You can stunt the growth.
If he gets it fixed, it'll take 2 full seasons to get back to right shape.
Yeah, and when Ant Edwards was coming up, one of the things I was lucky enough to produce an interview with Tom Crean, his basketball head coach, where him and Ryan McDonough talked a ton about Anthony Edwards. And one thing that he said was a really important part of his development will be going to a winning culture, Anthony Edwards. And he didn't say why, but my guess is from knowing him as a person,
stuff like this doesn't happen.
It's because he could go hands on his hips and F this offense stinks, which it does. But that's not conducive to team play and winning to throw your hands up, even if it is deserved. So predictable. But also, Jake, to go along with that point, a team that has a winning culture doesn't stunt its most promising players' development by doing something that doesn't make sense to anybody. Winning
the Miami
culture.
Heat would never go out and get somebody to do this to their team. A team wouldn't do this.
You want to trade all of our draft capital for a guy who's going to be phased out of the NBA and can't play in fourth quarters? Let's do it.
What if the Celtics said, hey, we want Jason Tatum's game to grow more, so we just traded for Zach LaVine? That's right. You know what I mean?
Same thing.
Honestly, what are we doing?
It's not even as bad. That's not even as bad.
It's not even bad because they're not both centers. That's why it's not as bad because they're not both centers. I still, man, till it's done, till the smoke is cleared.
I feel like trading Luka with Russell Westbrook.
I will put blame on Cat. I will. I will, Jake. This is a combination of, I don't know if Cat asked for it. I don't know if he indicated it, but his game did. Like the way that man's game played, the Wolves were like, someone needs to rebound.
Well, it's the same thing as
Someone
Ben
needs to
Simmons.
block
It's the
shots.
Ben Simmons problem. Like, you can block shots? Yeah. You can rebound? Yeah. Do it. No.
No.
Why? Because I don't like it. Like, what?
Because it takes too much. It takes too much physicality. It
All right,
takes
I
too
see what
much
you're saying.
banging.
I'm with it. I see what you're saying.
Like, Cat may not have asked for it, but the Timberwolves were like, hell, we need, if our only 7-foot player can't do it, we got it. But
His
guess we
game
gotta go get
asked
another
for it.
one. Yeah. We got to go get someone who only does it.
Yeah.
Like, maybe Rudy will only do it because Cat doesn't do it. And they sacrificed all offensive fluidity to do it. And they still both, neither of them are doing it. Like, it's an implosion. So, yeah, I think this is a consensus. Nix it all, scrap it away. Honestly, they were better off just running it back. Was running it like back and letting the team mature together with a young core of D'Lo, Cat, and Ant Edwards. They were really much better off not changing anything. They would have been a 5-6 seed again. It would have been cool. It would have been fine.
Go trade all those picks for Domantas Sabonis would have been a better addition if you want to go ahead and do that than Rudy Gobert. I don't know.
Yeah. One of the Lakers guys would have been a better addition than Rudy Gobert. Give him Matt Ryan. Give him Matt Ryan. Let him hit a buzzer beater or two. All right. We're almost out of time for this episode of Straight Facts. It was a great one as always. We can get some shots up at the buzzer. Who's got a quick shot at the buzzer before we ride out?
Really quick. I don't know if you guys could see, I'm going to lean into the camera. Right between my eyes when I was putting on a shirt, which still had the tags on it, the tag got caught.
Done. It sliced you. You're a wizard, Harry.
It was, bro, and I had to go see Sarah's family, like, right afterwards while, like, my head is bleeding and I look like Harry Potter with, like, a jagged cut on my forehead.
Yeah, they're like, Sarah, who's this maniac boy in our house?
Yeah, I told him I got into a fight with Voldemort, and like 3 out of the 4 of them did not get it. I'm like, that just made it worse.
So they thought you were actually just fighting someone named Voldemort.
Yeah, they were like, oh, like, are you okay? I was like, just forget about it.
He said, yeah, he had my Horcrux. I couldn't let him keep it. Matt, you got something to say?
I have a question. Am I a dummy or not? That's the prompt.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually don't wear fitted hats just because they're more expensive, and I just buy the cheaper ones. But for Phillies in the World Series, I bought like the day game blue, like fitted with the logo on the side.
Love it.
And I basically like looked at like the hat sizes, and I basically was like, I have a big head, so average size, Googled that, went up 1 or 2, and I got it way too small. So I asked my brothers, like, you should have measured your head. And I was like, people don't really measure their head unless they're in the store. No one grabs like the tape.
The measuring tape wraps it around.
So do people actually do that? No.
No.
You
getting the right size hat is a trial by error basis. You put on a bunch of hats until one fits, and then you look down and you go, "Oh, I guess I'm a 7 3/4." Okay. That's how you.
That's
your brother was setting you up. That's a brother thing to do, though. and they also videotape it and put it on Instagram, and they share their head size.
You're not a dummy. I would be the dummy because I would actually be like, oh, you're right. Let me go measure my head. 100%.
Because will it actually, like, when you wrap it around, will it actually come to like 7 and because hat sizes only go from 6 to 8.
No,
there's nothing outside,
no,
and nothing smaller than 6, nothing bigger than 8. So
do you think it's this distance, or do you think it's
the
this
circumference?
Distance?
No, it's you know what I mean.
It's the circumference.
It's the diameter. No, it's the diameter.
Diameter would be if you measure from.
Yeah, but that's all you need to know, right? To fit it on the head is how far is it?
Maybe it is the diameter. You know maybe it's not the See, this is why you don't do it.
We are dummies. That's
the answer is not. I'm not a dummy. We're all dummies.
We're all dummies.
There you go.
New era's like you idiots, and just pick up a hat and put it on and see which one fits. That's funny. Oh, that is funny. All right, from my at the buzzer, it's time to play everyone's favorite game.
We need like a theme song.
Does James have unrealistic social expectations? I've never been a waiter or a waitress at a restaurant. I've never been a food server at a restaurant. So I don't know how, I guess, hard this is to say or how much it goes against the best practices of being a food server. I also don't know why it gets on my nerves so much, but Jake, I think you've been there to witness this once or twice. If I'm at a restaurant and I order a Coke,
I knew it.
like, bring me a Coke. Make it, if I if I order a Coke, it is not okay to bring me a Pepsi and not tell me. It's simply unacceptable. It is. I didn't order a Pepsi. I didn't say, hey, I'll have a Coke. If you don't have Coke, it's okay. Bring me Pepsi. You asked me, sir, what would you like to drink? And I looked you in your eyes. I didn't blink. And I firmly said, I would like a Coke, please. And you said, okay, no problem. The next thing that should hit my table should be a Coke. And if it's not, you have to tell me, hey, sir, sorry, forgot our drink menu. We don't serve Coke. Is Pepsi okay? And I will quickly tell you, no, bring me a Dr. Pepper or an iced tea or something else. But for the love of God, if I order a Coke, do not just bring me a Pepsi and don't say anything. I can't be more serious about it.
That's honestly, like, it's probably not like a health risk because I'd imagine most of the same stuff is in a Coke that's in a Pepsi, but like that is bad. That's bad service.
Bad for business. That's bad business.
You got to ask. You have to ask.
I don't care.
That means yes. That means yes.
It was busy. That guy's having a rough day. He thought they had Coke, and he's like, I don't have time to do this. I'm gonna fudge it.
You might be right, but it's got to.
To go pour a drink?
No, you gotta go back to the room, and
you wouldn't bring out the food and be like, it's
Well, we didn't.
There's been like
we didn't have mashed potatoes.
That, like, if you put that most people like don't know the difference between Coke and Pepsi if you blind taste test them.
Most people aren't dialed in like I am.
Like, but like, I think he was just betting on that, and it's tough.
Well, here's fingers crossed. Did
like, I don't like. You're rightfully upset, but I don't hate the way to.
No, Jake asked a good question. Did I say something and put them in the spot every damn time? This isn't something that this was triggered by a recent event, but this is something that has happened once. It's happened multiple times, and every single time they get G-checked. Like, take a sec. Hey, excuse me. That's a Pepsi. Like, that's not Coke. That's
face
Pepsi.
Real quick.
Hey. Do you not have Coke? Because if not, we need to readdress. So anyone who's ever going to be serving me, just know I'm going to order a Coke specifically, not a cola, not a soft drink, not a soft beverage. I'm going to order a Coke. If you don't have it, please let me know. Or we're going to have a problem and you're not going to get tipped well. And now you're going to be mad at me because you didn't do your job well. But that's all the time we have for this episode of Straight Facts. It was a great one. Shout out to everybody again on the Up On Game Presents Network, LeVar Arrington, Plexico Burris, and TJ Hushmanzada. Please like, subscribe, and follow them on all social media platforms wherever you get your podcast. They have great content coming out of that way. And again, shout out my guys, as always, Stat Matt Robinson and Jake Galley. I'm James Jackson. These have been the facts.
Straight up.